the middle behind the wedge. The 50 is he ridden down. He really got clothesline.
Okay, guys. So I talked a little bit in my offense in a snap piece that I wanted to discuss how to break down plays in a little more in-depth fashion. Before we get totally started in this, though, I want to thank my cousin Diana Corona, who patiently drew all this out and wrote it on the board for me before this video started. So thanks, Diana. And so the biggest thing to getting started to understanding football and learning how to break it down is looking at the field. And a lot of people, you know, if you ask them how long a football field is, what would they tell you? They would tell you it's 100 yards. Well, it's actually not. You have 10 yards of end zone on either side, so it's actually 120 yards. And sideline to sideline, it's 53.33 yards. You're not really going to have to decipher all of that, but it's important when you lay out the field that you understand the length and the width and put that together. So let's start taking apart the field. We're looking at 120 yards of field. So how do you take that apart when you're breaking down plays? How do you make this less complicated with 22 players on the field? Okay, so there's 3 points on the field you've got to know. There's the sideline, there's the numbers, and there's the hash marks. If you divide the field up this way, it should make everything you analyze much easier. So remember, it's sideline, numbers, hash marks. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to teach you terms you hear a lot. Now I'm going to work a little out of order from how these are listed. I just realized this now. But, so you'll hear these terms a lot. Well, he was inside, or he was outside, or he went over the middle. Well, how do you discern that stuff? So, the biggest way to make all of that easier is to use these 3 points on the field I just discussed. So, from the numbers to the sideline is outside. So this is going to be denoted by an O. So that's outside. Anything from the numbers to the hash marks is now inside, and that will be noted by an I. And anything between the hash marks, and just to add a little bit of understanding, the hash marks, each set lines up with the goalpost. Okay, a field goal post. So if you ever hear someone say he likes it on the left hash, it means he likes the ball, the kicker likes the ball, lined up with the left goalpost, or, you know, switch it around, whatever you want. But it's important to note that the exact distance between each one is the field goal post, so it's like 18.6 feet or something like that. I crammed all these dimensions for this video, so a few of them are escaping me, which is kind of bad. So the middle will probably be noted by like an M between the hash marks. So study this video, take this in. This is part 1 of how to break down and analyze plays. So take in this field study here, and then in part 2, which will come shortly after this, I will cut them all together. We'll start teaching you how to build plays to completion. So putting all 22 players on the field. Okay? See you in part 2. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of my series teaching you how to break down and analyze football plays. This is part 2, as you can see, building the play. Now, in this case, a lot of people just constantly tell me, how do you look at 22 players and break down a play? Well, here's a big tip. I don't. So when I examine a play, I usually look at a play, say 20 times. When I'm breaking down, or I've picked a play for, say, This Week in Defense, I'll look at it about 20 times, and I will break it down into 4 sections for me to highlight and take notes on and examine and break down. So the first part I do is I build the line of scrimmage. Now what I'm going to have Diana do is just draw, little dots to sort of fill in the offensive line. We're not worried about numbers or anything like that. We'll just start with the line of scrimmage. And this will mean that I'm going to fill in the left tackle, left guard, center, guard, right tackle. So just like 5 dots close together.
Where do you want them, like on the 15?
Yeah, so start the left tackle on the hash mark there.
On this one?
Yeah, so like right outside there. Right there, yep. So start the left tackle and then put the left guard and center. So now we have the offensive line built. The other thing we'll do is note the defensive line. So in this case, just as an example, I'm going to use a 4-3 scheme. So you build the line of scrimmage, and this is just a concept idea. So then, when I'm breaking down a play, I'll probably watch the line of scrimmage, let's say, 5 times. So sometimes you can get a feel for what happens on a certain section, but I find that about, 5 times of consistent, driven, focused analysis gives me a pretty clear picture. If not, the few more times never hurts. So now that I've got the line of scrimmage set aside, now I'm going to build in the linebackers and running backs. Okay? That's the second part. So what we'll have here is we'll elect to build an I formation. So now we've put the running backs on the field. And now we'll put the linebackers on the field. And again, just a basic idea, but this allows me to study each level, study each section, build things up, and be able to break things down compartmentally. If I tried to take in a play all at once, there's no way I could track the subtleties of what's happening. So now the last bit, or the next bit, is going to be wide receivers and defensive backs. Now in this case, we're just going to have 2 wide receivers on the field. Oh, that reminds me, a guy I forgot at the line of scrimmage. In most cases, you're going to want to note if a tight end is on the end of the line, because to me, he counts on the line of scrimmage. Even if he can be a receiver or any element of that, you're going to want to note him. So we'll put a guy right on the end. My apologies. So now we'll build in wide receivers and DBs. Now I call them DBs, some people refer to them as corners, but I find that my speech struggles cause corners and quarterbacks to sound very similar. So I elect to use DBs. A big thing to note in terms of the wide receivers and defensive backs is how they're aligned. So sometimes you can see them on the numbers, so they're closer to the inside of the play, or they can be closer to the sideline, so they'll be closer to the outside of the play. In this case, we'll kind of split the difference, so they're going to be like right in the middle. Now, studying this about 5 times is important, because sometimes you'll see different leverage points, and as we discuss inside and outside in terms of how to divide up the field, in part 3 I will actually discuss how that helps you also study what players are doing. So the last bit before we get to part 3 is the quarterback and the safeties, because they'll be important if it's a pass play, and it's the last thing I want to take in before a throw. I want to know where the safeties are and what the quarterback is doing in relation to that. So what we'll have is we'll have 2 deep safeties, so they're going to be like 3 hashes from the end zone here, just as a physical representation. So maybe like split that in half. So put the safety maybe closer to here. There we go. I will be getting a laser pointer here soon, so this will be a lot easier in the future. The other safety will go right here in the same sort of split difference. There we go, perfect.
And he will give me a paper so I can write this stuff down.
Yes. So now we have basically, you know, an eye for, oh, we got to put the quarterback in. Can't have a play without a quarterback.
I was waiting for you to tell me.
So now we've built the play up. And just remember, start with the line of scrimmage. Watch that part, you know, 5 times or so. Get a feel for what's going on there. Just really focus in. 2, put the linebackers and halfbacks or running backs or fullbacks, whatever you got. You could even just say backs is probably easier. But, you know, remember that's your second part. You build that up. Then you build out with the wide receivers and defensive backs. And then you build the quarterback and the safeties. So if you remember how to construct the play and examine it and break it down, it should make things a whole lot easier. Pair this with understanding how to take apart the field and the different points on it, and analysis becomes a whole lot easier. So stay tuned. Part 3 will give you some basic understanding of how to study player positioning. Hey guys, it's me back again with part 3 of my how to break down a play and analyze football. This is combining field points with player results. So if you take the 2 previous videos and combine them, this is the results you should get. So I'm gonna teach you how to read all this together and learn to break things down. Okay, so the thing we're gonna start with is the line of scrimmage. Just like putting the play together, now we're gonna show you how to understand what players are doing as the results go. So in terms of the line of scrimmage, you'll hear the term outside rush, inside rush. What does all that mean? You know, sometimes you'll see they rushed up the middle. So the easiest way to sort of set your understanding of inside rush, outside rush, or up the middle is use the center as your starting point. So your center is going to be the point where you're going to have rushes right up the middle, typically like blitzes or things like that. Anywhere where they're trying to rush right up the center's point is going to be up the middle. In terms of an outside rush, just use the sideline as your leverage point there, okay? So think of anything that carries the defensive lineman toward the sideline. So just outside, just think about it that way. So an inside rush is anything that carries you toward but not directly over center. So use the center and the sideline as your focus points. You'll now be able to go, okay, that's a rush inside. That makes sense. Or that's a rush outside. That makes sense. He's going toward the sideline. Okay? So now that we've built up the line of scrimmage and we understand how that works, now let's study backs in general. So in this sense, we're going to ignore the linebackers because they aren't important in terms of what we're trying to set up here. So any run that carries you outside the numbers is an outside run, okay? Sometimes they'll go, well, it's a run to the outside because he's outside of the tackle, but that's not necessarily true, okay? So you have any run that goes outside the numbers toward the sideline. So that's a leverage point for the run, okay? So that's outside. So inside is actually inside the numbers, but not at the hash, not just to the hash marks. So that's an inside run. So you can run that, from guard, tackle, they can block, and this would be an inside run. Over the middle is anything between the guards and centers here. So this 3-man space is going to be right up the middle, right in between the hash marks. So that's right up, right up the middle. Those are the 3 leverage points. If you understand that on running plays, you'll be able to understand where the back's going, and you'll also be able to understand the leverage points of the linebackers. Because the linebackers, their designated job is to force everything to prevent all the running backs from getting to this point. They want to prevent the outside run. Okay, they want to prevent that. They're going to hold their leverage. They're going to mirror the back and everything like that. So in terms of those 3 types of runs. So if you hear the term inside run, just think of this leverage point. If you hear the term outside run, think of that. Up the middle's pretty easy, but okay. So now let's move on to the third part of the breakdown, and that's receivers and defensive backs. So one of the things you'll hear is, inside leverage versus outside leverage. So if we say inside and outside, what does that mean? We've discussed it. I actually want you guys to go ahead and, take a few seconds, maybe pause the video and answer that yourself, okay? And so now, if we say this corner has outside leverage, he's trying to deny the receiver the ability to utilize the sideline, so to get outside of him. Okay? So if the corner has outside leverage, he's denying the receiver the ability to get to the sideline. If he has inside leverage, okay, so he's working toward the numbers, he's trying to force the receiver outside. And this, so really when you study, receiver one-on-one battles, inside and outside, you don't have to worry about up the middle. There's no up the middle in terms of coverage. So what you'll want to understand is, are they just totally manned up so they're directly across from each other, or is the corner cheating in a certain direction to force the receiver to a more winnable position for him? So that's basically it. That's how to utilize and put things together. I hope I've explained it in a way that makes things simpler to understand. If you have questions or things you'd like me to add, things that confused you, I'd love to hear your comments and hear your thoughts on this, and hopefully you'll be able to start breaking down plays just like I do every week when writing This Week in Defense. Okay? Thanks.